Yo, what is going on? Cover One crew, welcome back to the show. Hope everybody's doing good. Week 8 is underway. Chargers and Vikings off Thursday Night Football. Chargers absolutely demolished a Carson Wentz. We'll be talking today, boomer bust, week number 8. Like I'm saying, who's going to boom, who's going to bust, and who can we trust in week number 8 is a big week, man. Bye week Armageddon. We got 6 teams on the bye. Injuries continue to pile up. We got a big problem, but in terms of accuracy, it was all right last week. 60% with 2 injured players, unfortunately, but still hit that 60% mark. Definitely good. Continuing down the path. Got to get into that 80th percentile, man. It's just fading me this season. But I mean, with all the NBA news coming out with people doing illegal stuff, I would not be surprised if the NFL's involved. I'm just saying there might be some gambling issues going down. That's why it's affecting my numbers, right? But anyway, let's talk these running backs. First one on the board, James Cook taking on the Carolina Panthers and these Buffalo Bills. I'm telling y'all right now, the Bills coming off the bye week after dropping a horrible show on Monday Night Football versus those Falcons, hoping, the rest week was at least somewhat rejuvenating for this team. Get back on track in a big way, and you got to start reusing a James Cook in bunches to open up the rest of the offense and the pass game. Cook is coming off 2 bust games in a row. This is a big problem before the bye week, so there's no way in hell they're not going to put up another stinker this week for James Cook and these Bills. They got to get back into winning ways in a must-win versus Carolina Panthers without question. Already back to boom for Cook. He should be cooking this week. I'm telling you, I love me some James Cook this week on a bounce back, man. Javonte Williams taking on the Denver Broncos. 71% on that boom rate for Vontae, man. Going back to the offseason, what was my evaluation on a Vontae in Dallas? I told y'all he was going to be a massive sleeper and an easy bet for 1,000 yards to be a super earner for us as our running back 3. No question. That's exactly what's going down with the Javonte Williams at this point. He's taken all the volume, making huge plays with it. And these Dallas Cowboys, they can definitely move the ball on this offensive side with the best of them in the NFL, no question. This, you know me, man. I'm a sucker for revenge games, and this is as big as they get for Javonte taking on the Broncos, who snuck in a dub last week versus those New York Giants. Vontae, he was going to want to stick it to his old club in a very big way. I call revenge, boom, for a Javonte Williams. Should be plentiful, even though the Broncos defense is very sound. Ramondre Stevenson, Dre, taking on the Cleveland Browns. 42.8% on his boom rate so far this season. The most frustrating backfield's got to be the New England Patriots right now, especially with how Coach McDaniels does not use a Trevion Henderson at all. What is your problem, Josh? I just don't understand. But anyway, Dre can fumble the football, 20 times in a row, and he's still going to get majority of the work share? I just don't understand. I'm so confused with what's going down. But this week versus the Browns, stingy defense, even volume should be capped to lesser upside and yardage. Drake May, he should be able to move this offense. This is a great test to see how Drake May can dominate over a sound defense like the Cleveland Browns. I will be watching with peeled eyes. There is some issues here for me. TD upside capping a Dre. Saving his day is the only thing I got this week. So I'm calling a bust for a Ramondre Stevenson versus the Cleveland Browns defense that is relatively strong still. JCM taking on these Kansas City Chiefs. Under 30% on that boom rate, 28.5. And the story this week again is JD. He's out with another injury, leaving this offense to look at Marcus Mariota once again in hopes they can compete and maybe sneak out a dub versus these surging Chiefs. Coming back again, these Kansas City Chiefs, unbelievable. JCM, he hasn't been necessarily good to great, as many want to believe he has been this season, but we've seen some good flash and dash from the 7th-round rookie. He has played extremely well in certain contests, but then he has faded quite a bit. Could he eventually be something special? Maybe. Or could he fizzle out as fast as he started? Because we know this league definitely eats running backs for breakfast, man. The positives for these Commanders, the Commies, is they get Debo back. They get Terry likely back this week as well, but they got no Jaden Daniels. Is a big problem. But this could also help the run game as well. Take a lot of pressure off with more weapons back in the mix with a Debo and a Terry McLaurin. Help no stack boxes. We will see. It's going to be all up to Marcus Mariota, see what he can do moving the football around, but I do not really like the matchup versus Kansas City Chiefs defense that's still very good versus the run with a Marcus Mariota at the helm. I'm calling a bust for a JCM, better known as Bill. I will not call him Bill. I just can't do it. Wide receivers, T. Higgins taking on the New York Jets, 28.5% on his boom rate. so far this season. The positives for the Bengals, I mean, they got Joe Flacco, and it appears he's making this offense once again fantasy football relevant. Absolutely love it, man. Chase and T coming off a long week of rest because they played on that Thursday Night Football contest. And I'm telling y'all, they put up sound numbers in that for our clubs that last week. So, I mean, taking on the lowly Jets team right now, still without a victory, now without a Sauce Gardner. This is going to be big time for this passing offense. Could be a very nice day through the air if Flacco does focus on a T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And, I mean, Chase saw so many targets come his way last week. You got to understand they're going to be spreading the wealth this week in Cincinnati. Got to believe it, but I'm telling y'all right now, very strong showing is on the docket for T. Higgins. I'm calling a boom for a T. I got to see another touchdown potentially coming once again this week for a T. Higgins. Tet McMillan taking on the Buffalo Bills. 42.8% for a Tet right now in the news that Bryce Young will likely miss this contest versus the Buffalo Bills. So the Panthers will be turning back to the Red Rifle and Andy Dalton to lead the charge once again. Andy is capable in moving the football down the field in the pass game. There is no question. We've seen it in the past, and he has been able to support at least the offense to some degree. But the Bills, they're getting some defensive help back this week in a Hoyt and company, which should bring more pressure on Andy Dalton and this offense. Teddy's been decent overall this season, but more TDs definitely need to come his way for him to be that top-end wide receiver that we are looking for this week versus this week. The Panthers should lean on the ground game, I think, more than the pass game with Andy Dalton. So Rico and Chuba should have better games, especially with the fact that the Bills really do struggle in stopping the run. I do not like Tet this week. Only thing saving his day is going to be a TD shot. I don't know if that's even coming this week, so I'm going to say a bust for a Tet McMillan. I do not like the play this week. Drake London taking on the Miami Dolphins, 33% boom rate, very low-end boom rate for a Drake London. I absolutely expected much more from this top-end wide receiver this season. We just have not gotten it so far, and I mean, this may be the easy play of the week, and that's fine, but there are issues at the quarterback spot. Michael Penix may sit out of this contest due in part to the injury. Coach Morris did say that he is optimistic that he will suit up, but I mean, if it is Kirk Cousins that does play in this contest, which Kirk Cousins are we getting? That's the biggest question mark. The positives, no matter who plays the quarterback, the Falcons are taking on the Finns team that is a complete dump fire at this point, man. Points should be had in bunches for a lot of these offensive pieces, especially Bijan, man, to the moon for Bijan this week, but the points should definitely add up for Drake London as well. It's a glorious matchup without question. Even Kyle Pitts should get in the mix. And coming off a bust game last week, definitely wanted to see a lot more versus the 49ers. It's going to be all hands on deck to get Drake London back in the mix. I'm calling boom time for Drake London taking on the Miami Dolphins. We should have a good bounce back game this week. Tez Johnson taking on the New Orleans Saints, 33% boom rate for Tez so far. And I mean, awful news. We saw Mike Evans. He went down with that concussion and a broken collarbone after trying to make that diving grab. Did not look good. Chris Godwin still dealing with his ailments. He's not ready to return to the field either, so it is going to be Emeka and company trying to elevate their games to hope and bounce back in a victory versus New Orleans Saints. We'll see. Tez, he's been very exciting, man. He's turning into quite the playmaker so far. He's such a shifty, speedy type of wide receiver. You just got to get the ball in his hands, and he does have very reliable hands. There's always risk, though, to these secondary wide receivers, but like I said, with all these injuries, all these bye-week issues, we got to play somebody, and Tez definitely is one of these players that could be on a docket with Baker trying to spread the football around that much better. I'm leaving Tez with another great opportunity to hit pay dirt and do a backflip in that end zone. We're calling boom once again for Tez, with TDs definitely looming in his direction. Tight ends, talking Evan Ingram, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to National Tight End Week, baby. If y'all didn't know, it is National Tight End Week. This is big news for our tight ends. Looking at the matchups, I mean, it shouldn't be hard in week number 8 because dedication to feed the tight ends on this week, on National Tight End Week, it's definitely paramount across the league. We see it every single year, and tight ends do feast in bunches. Evan Ingram still yet to have that full-on explosion contest with these Broncos, but taking on the Dallas Cowboys, who cannot stop a cold. Getting Evan involved early and often is going to be key. I'm calling a boom in a big way for Evan Ingram. We haven't seen many of them so far this season, but I think this week should be a big one. Dallas Goedert taking on the New York Giants, 50% on that boom rate right now. And with Dallas, with the news that A.J. Brown is not going to suit up in this contest either, all eyes are going to point to Saquon, to Smitty, now to Dallas Goedert to carry the load. People laughed at me this offseason when I preached up a Dallas Goedert, big time saying that he was highly undervalued. Now where does he sit? He's sitting as a tight end 4 right now through 7 weeks, and that is with a struggling pass attack with these Philadelphia Eagles. Very good news. No A.J. Brown, like I'm saying, a struggling run game. Get ready for this baller to put up sound numbers on National Tight End Day. Fire up Dallas in a very big way. Boom time for this Eagle. He's going to fly big time this week, no question. Mark Andrews taking on the Chicago Bears, 16.6% on nice boom rate. It's been a rough season for these Ravens, man. They're coming off the bye week, but getting word that Lamar is ready to go, this is positive news, man. Having a number of safety looks and checkdowns, you got to believe it's got to be coming for Lamar. Even though Lamar is still one of the better quarterbacks in this league, he's got to get comfy early, and I think there's going to be a lot of good scripted plays for him to get at least a safe option, which should be a Mark Andrews this week, 100%, man. Andrews, he's been a bust for the most part this season, taking on a Bears defense that can defend the tight end relatively well with all their linebackers that they do possess. This week should be Lamar leaning on a King Henry and a Mark Andrews. I mean, to stop their losing ways, they got to start, stacking wins together if they have any hope of making the playoffs. So go back to reliable in a Mark Andrews. He should see plenty of targets to come his way. Potential TD upside here as well. Boom for Mark Andrews, even though it has been a rough season. George Kittle taking on the Houston Texans, 50% boom rate so far on George. Even though he's only played 2 contests, on National Tight End Day, I was not going to leave off the founder of this day. George Kittle, if you guys don't know, he's the founder of National Tight Ends Day, the people's tight end, George Kittle. And I mean, these 49ers, they just magically keep stringing wins together with all their injuries. Don't ask me how they're doing it. Kyle Shanahan definitely deserving of high praise for how he's getting this team ready amidst all the injuries that they do possess. In Kittle's return last week, he put up a goose egg, and he was jokingly blaming a Kyle Shanahan for his lack of production as we all started him, and he definitely disappointed us with no targets or no catches at least. It was a terrible week for us. But, I mean, this week we should see a big-time conscious effort to get George the football, whether it's Brock Purdy or a Mac Money Jones. On the day he invented, he should get at least 1, or if not 2 TDs this week. I'm banking on a very big day coming up for this man. Fire him up everywhere he got him. Boom for a George Kittle on National Tight Ends Day. Yes, you saw it here, man. I'm putting 4 boom tight ends, no busts on my board this week on National Tight Ends Day. It is what it is because they are going to produce for us. But there you go. That is Boomer Bust week number 8. And I'm telling you, I got start sit for you guys on Saturday, so definitely stay on tap for that. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.